The August 23rd, 2021 regular Wasilla City Council meeting is called to order. The time is 6 p.m. Before we begin, council, please put away cell phones. If you have personal business to attend to during the meeting, please move for a recess. Audience, please make sure your cell phone is silenced. Also, when speaking, please remember to state your name for those streaming the meeting. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Johnson?
Here.
Councilmember Velock?
Here.
Councilmember Brown?
Here.
Councilmember Harvey?
Here.
Councilmember Burney, are you on the line? Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum with Councilmember Johnson participating telephonically. Councilmembers Velock, Brown, and Harvey are in person. Councilmembers Rousa and Burney are excused, absent and excused unless there's objection from the body.
Okay, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Has joined.
For the record, Councilmember Burney joined us at 6:01 p.m. Just before the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Mr. Harvey, please lead us.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item of business is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes? Hearing none, the agenda will stand as presented. Next on the agenda is special orders of the day. There are two proclamations that I will read. The first is the City of Wasilla Proclamation recognizing September 11th as Patriot Day and a National Day of Service and Remembrance. Whereas on September 11th, 2001, over 3,000 people died in New York City, rural southwest Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. in the worst terrorist attack on America and our nation's history. And whereas countless numbers of volunteers from around the United States came together to help in response, mitigation, healing, and rebuilding in the wake of that tragic day. And whereas by a joint resolution approved December 18, 2001, the United States Congress designated September 11th of each year as Patriot Day, and by Public Law 111-13, approved on April 21st, 2009, designated the observance of September 11th as an annual recognized National Day of Service and Remembrance. And whereas the National Day of Service and Remembrance is an opportunity to salute the heroes of 9/11, recapture the spirit of unity and compassion that inspired our nation following these attacks, and rededicate ourselves to sustained service to our communities. And whereas the City of Wasilla reflects the values and traditions of a nation built to endure through its vital connections between citizens, government, and our environment. And whereas the City of Wasilla continues to remember the sacrifices of all those lost on September 11, 2001, and the enduring sacrifices of families, friends, and comrades lost that day, and holds with honors their memory in our hearts and prayers. And whereas the City of Wasilla leads by example to model how a community stands tall together and moves forward towards a better and stronger future. Our police officers and other first responders stand ready to provide for our safety. Our city staff, citizens, neighborhoods, businesses, and other public and private partners continue their pursuit of planning and achieving a more resilient community that is progressive, welcoming, respectful, and sustainable for future generations. And whereas the City of Wasilla continues to honor the memories of those lost and recognize the service of all the men and women whose mission is to protect us. Now, I, Glenda D, Ledford, Mayor of the City of Wasilla, hereby proclaim September 11th, 2021 as Patriot Day and a National Day of Service and Remembrance in Wasilla. The second proclamation is recognizing National Suicide Prevention Week. Whereas suicide is a major public health issue that requires vigilant attention and prevention action, and whereas suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States and the second leading cause of death among individuals between the ages of 15 to 34, and whereas, according to the Centers of Disease Control, over 47,000 people die by suicide in the United States each year. And whereas suicide is the only leading cause of death in the United States that has increased every year for the past decade. And whereas Alaska has the highest rate of suicide per capita in the country, averaging 167 suicides per year. And whereas, according to the American Association of Suicidology, over 90% of people who die by suicide have depression and other diagnosable, treatable mental or substance abuse disorder conditions. And whereas each death by suicide directly impacts numerous family members, friends, loved ones, and by extension the entire community. And whereas no single suicide prevention effort will be sufficient or appropriate for all populations or societies. Hence, all communities must join together and take a stand to help those who are contemplating suicide. Now, therefore, I, Glenda D. Ledford, Mayor for the City of Wasilla, hereby proclaim the week of September 5th through the 11th, 2021 as National Suicide Prevention Week in Wasilla, and encourage all citizens to take this opportunity to educate themselves, to recognize warning signs, and how best to help those most in need. Dated the 23rd day of August, 2021. Okay. Let me get back to where I started. Next on the agenda is Commission and Agency Reports. We have with us Youth 360 Project Overview presented by Youth 360 Director Tyler Healy. Tyler.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, Council, City staff. I am happy to be here tonight and sharing some more information on Youth 360, a collaborative project led by United Way of Mat-Su, designed to build connections for our Mat-Su youth, specifically here in Wasilla and Houston, but across our valley as well. So it's very timely, coming after the proclamation there. We believe that the work that we're doing can help make an impact on suicide and other negative outcomes in our communities. And so I'll be talking more about our programs, about what we can offer Wasilla youth, and how each of us can really have a role to play in supporting our young people. So Youth 360 started in 2019. We've supported over 500 Mat-Su youth in those times. We have pilot sites in Houston and Wasilla in the public schools, as I mentioned. I'll talk about some of our big goals and get into some of the details on our programming as well. So really, we're trying to provide more activities and opportunities to help youth and families thrive. So these are opportunities to connect socially, to build connections with peers, with parents, with friends, with our community. We'll see later on in my presentation that when these connections are effectively made, young people have much lower risk of a lot of these negative outcomes. Was that a comment or a question?
No.
I'm sorry. Okay. So we're also working with a number of other youth programs and activities. So this is really a collaborative project. We're not competing for the same kids. We're all supporting the same young people in our community. I also want to give a quick shout out to the City Public Works Department that helped us and our sister program, Thrive Mat-Su, run some really cool programs at Wonderland Park and other locations around Wasilla and the wider valley this summer. So we've already been working together, even if you're not quite aware of it yet, and we really appreciate the support. Okay, so what exactly is it that Youth 360 is doing? All of our activities are free. We're in middle and high schools in Wasilla and Houston. So we have a youth club, our after-school youth clubs. These are relaxed, fun places for young people to hang out and connect with others. I have a staff team of 6 running these programs. Our Wasilla program is on the Wasilla High campus. If you drive by on Bogard Road, you'll see our portable out in the practice field out there. That's where we're running our after-school programs. So these are free spots for middle and high schoolers to come after school. We have structured activities. They can debrief, hang out, relax after school, spend time before going to cheer practice or any of these other things. So it's meant to be a constructive, safe, fun place for young people to go after school, which, as we know, is in high need for young folks to have those constructive opportunities during a time of day when there might not be other things going on or their families are working, etc. So that's kind of a main component, is these after-school clubs. We also help pay for community-based activities. We have a stipend program similar to what you might find in homeschool style programs. So I work with a number of community providers and I'll approve activities, and then we'll help pay for those approved activities for Wasilla Middle, Wasilla High, and Houston Junior, Senior students. So this is another way to get students involved in the community, to connect with supportive adults, to maybe meet peers that are outside of their social groups in school, etc., and really to leverage a lot of the skills and talents that we have in our community. There's a lot of people doing some really cool stuff, and we want to help break down some of the barriers that keep some of our students from participating in a lot of these activities, while also making sure it's open to everyone. I could go on and on about different details of what we're doing, but for the sake of time, I will move along and really talk a little bit about why we're doing what we're doing, and kind of the understanding of the primary prevention mindset that kind of drives what we're doing. And the idea is that we want to prevent negative outcomes before they ever happen. Things like suicide and mental health issues that the mayor had read that lovely proclamation earlier. Crime issues, I know, is a concern of many folks around our valley. Drug and alcohol abuse. We think that by involving young people in activities early in their development, delaying the initiation of drug and alcohol use and other risky behaviors, that even by making that small investment at that critical stage, we can make a big difference in some of these outcomes. So this is sometimes called upstream prevention. Some people may have heard the sort of prevention fable where they're pulling kids out of a river, metaphorically, where the river is negative outcomes, whether it be people struggling with family issues, drug and alcohol issues, etc. And somebody takes off and they're walking upstream and they're going, what are you doing? We got all these kids to pull out of the river. They say, well, I'm going to find out why they're falling in the river in the first place, and it's going to be a heck of a lot easier, and nobody's going to get wet, and we're going to be able to solve these problems a lot cheaper and easily. So we think this translates over really well for activities such as ours and youth involvement and social connections. It's also a lot cheaper and easier to stop somebody from starting to go down that road of drug or alcohol abuse than to go into addiction treatment and these types of things. So this is kind of the big picture piece, zooming out from our clubs and activities. The other part that we really focus on is high quality current information about how our kids in our communities are doing. So with collaboration from the Matsu School District, which has been a huge partner of ours throughout this project, but they've helped us to run some surveying within the schools. So we've done 2 surveys. The most recent one was administered in December of 2020 at our host schools. Anybody that lived here or lived in the world in December 2020 remembers it was a pretty chaotic time, but we were able to pull these surveys off, and the goal is to really get info from a wide range of local students and turn it around relatively quickly. So these are 6th through 11th graders. They got the survey during the school day or during their at-home learning, as the district was in kind of that hybrid mode at that point. We got almost 950 total surveys. So really the big piece that I want to focus on is this is a wide range of kids. These are our local kids just a few months ago. So these are not statewide surveys that were conducted 4 years ago. This is as close to right here, right now as you can get. So we asked about a lot of different things, and I'll try not to focus too much on a bunch of numbers here, but to give you an idea of the types of things we're asking about, we found that many Mat-Su youth are experiencing mental health challenges. 23% say they feel alone in life. 19% have considered suicide in the past year, so almost 1 in 5, again, middle and high school students right here in our community. And the red and blue bars on the right side show that there's some pretty significant differences between girls and boys. Girls are reporting, on the whole, poor mental health in comparison to boys in our community. So again, this is something that we want to try to provide activities and opportunities with, the theory being that if people are busy doing things they enjoy, making connections with people they enjoy spending time with, these issues are less likely to arise. We're looking at things like social connections within our communities. So asking students, hey, do your parents know your friends? And the top left kind of rainbow there says that 60% said, 61% said yes, 39% no. And when you compare those groups of students, the students that say their parents know their friends, they're about half as likely to feel alone in life. They're less than half as likely to have considered suicide. So, you know, it might not be that these social connections are causing these positive outcomes, but there's some really strong correlations between that. As a side note, the two bottom bars there, 93% of parents said they knew their children's friends when we asked parents about this. So parents might not know as much as they think they know. We're just really encouraging parents to stay connected, know your kids, what they're doing, who they're with. And also, expanding upon this, do your parents know the parents of your friends? And we see this is a lower proportion of yes. 44% of students said yes. Again, these students that said yes, they're less likely to report some of these negative mental health outcomes, less likely to have used marijuana in the last 30 days, et cetera, et cetera. I will keep moving before we get to the real meat of this. So here's where, okay, people might be saying, I'm not a parent, I'm not a teacher. What role do the rest of us have to play? So we asked students, do you know at least one adult outside of school and home who encourages me to do my best? 77% said yes, which is awesome. That was I was really encouraged by this, that they have somebody outside of school or home that they can talk to, that they get encouragement from. These students who have that supportive adult in their life, they're less than half as likely, again, similar correlations, less than half as likely to feel alone in life or to consider suicide when you're comparing them to the students that say no, or I'm not really sure if I have that adult in my life. They're also more likely to say they get along well with other students. So it they feel better about themselves and they get along better with other kids in their lives if they have these supportive relationships. And then finally, this is my last slide with numbers on it, I promise, for anybody that glazes over when you see charts. But I think that this is really the most striking of all of the results that we found. So the simple statement, I feel like I matter to people in my community. 47% of students agree. 36% agree some, disagree some, not really sure, and 17% disagree. Now, when we compare these groups of students, the students that agree, the blue section of that, versus those that are neutral or disagree, you can see that those that agree are 5 times less likely to consider suicide, 4 times less likely to feel alone in life. So I think that for the council to consider, for our community members to consider, what messages are we sending to our young people about, do adults and other people in your community care about you? Do you feel you matter to folks there? Now, we didn't ask them what their community was. We didn't define it for them, but it really, I think that these results can really encourage all of us to think about the experiences of young people and how they're experiencing their community, however it is they define that. So again, looping back around to our programs and activities, we're trying to provide these opportunities for young people through our direct, on-site level programs, community involvement, advocating for folks to get involved, stay involved with young people in their community, and for a audience such as you all helping to operate and run the city of Wasilla, to consider what might be some low-cost and easy ways to send these positive messages to our young people, to continue to offer connection opportunities, social connection opportunities, collaboration ideas. We are here to help, and we would love to hear from community members, council members, parents. I'd love to have the opportunity to share more of this information. We're going to be doing this survey yearly, and so if there's ever an interest for me to dive more into this, trust me, what I have here is barely the tip of the iceberg. I'd be happy to share more info, whether it's with this group or business groups, connections you all might have in the community. So with that, I'm going to put it on my contact information here. We also have a text alert line that's not listed. You can sign up for alerts and whatnot. I'd be happy to share some of that info. Anybody that's interested, I have flyers and business cards on the back table. If there's time and the mayor approves, I'd be happy to answer any questions that come up, or suggestions, ideas.
Council, do you have any questions?
Maybe, Madam Mayor. For people out in the community, can they access this presentation or the information in this presentation on your website for the survey results?
We have an overview on our website. I'm working to make sure the full results are available as well. The website is youth-360.org. Anybody that requests, I'd be happy to share that with them, and I can let you know when the full results are on there.
All right, thanks.
Sure.
I'd like to know when they're available. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Councilman Brown.
Councilman Brown, thank you, Madam Mayor. The statistics you showed there, it's been going for years that the statistic was higher for female students. And as a former football coach, a lot of it comes from bullying and stuff. Are you working with the schools and trying to develop some kind of program that point at the female students to try to address some of those issues that have been going for years?
Yes, sir, we are. And we see, not only those discrepancies between female students, but we see 8th and 9th grade students in particular, especially 8th and 9th grade females. It seems to be a very risky, challenging time, as we probably all remember from our own lives, but also these realities that you alluded to. So, yes, we're sharing this info on a very more detailed and granular level with the schools to see what we can do to support students. We're increasing our outreach for those groups, specifically recently with Wasilla High freshman roll-in, really trying to reach some of these students at that really critical time. Again, with female students, I'm working with a number of community providers. I mentioned our stipend program earlier. I'm prioritizing some activities that are focused towards girls. We have a yoga program that's girls only, and I would encourage any community member that has these types of, whether it's their knowledge or connections or suggestions for things that we could be doing that is not available in the community, to share that. So really, we were a little surprised, or not surprised, but it is alarming to see those differences, and we want to continue to address that with the schools and the community. Yes.
And second, is there anything you ask or you can think you could ask the city to help you do to address these issues?
Well, I think that the city has done a good job recently of promoting community events, both those provided by the city and partners and other folks within the community. So I would encourage you all to continue that. We saw the music in the park activities and things like that. So I would encourage that social connection piece to come in. And a lot of times when we run these community events, I'm not talking specifically about Wasilla, but in general, okay, there's things for adults, there's things for little kids, there's not much for teens and adolescents. So I'd encourage folks to think about all age ranges when you're running large community events. I think you could think about, long-term, continue to expand our facility capacity, I hear is an issue over and over again from community members about youth sports and activities run into space issues. So that's something that I think our valley as a whole should continue to consider. And any opportunities you might have to share any of these numbers or survey results that you think will really resonate with the community. Mrs. Mayor, I hear your radio updates. If you need any tidbits, please let me know. I'd be happy to supply some little bite-sized pieces where we can just hopefully continue to encourage this idea of, okay, all of our kids are all of our kids. What can each of us do to encourage them to feel that their community cares about them?
If any further questions?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Thank you for what you're doing. That is so important. And how are you funded?
Yes, there's a variety of funding sources. Most of them are grant-based. We had our main funding was from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, which is a nationwide philanthropic organization. So they gave us a grant that kind of helped us to get off the ground. We have funding from United Way, which is our fiscal agent, sort of our umbrella organization, Matsu Health Foundation, Rasmussen Foundation. We applied for and received a grant from the state of Alaska. It supports positive youth development after school programs, and some other smaller sources as well.
Do you plan on expanding to other schools? I know you have after-school programs for Wasilla and Houston, Colony, Palmer.
We hope to, and I mentioned Thrive Matsu briefly earlier. We're really working closely together with Thrive to share information and provide activities for all students in the Matsu. I would love to have 8 programs or however many we need in the valley. Sustainable funding is a long-term concern. I don't want to focus on that too much here today, but we'll need to think about as a community, if we want to continue to provide these opportunities, what does that funding look like in the long term as well. Right now we're not funded for additional program sites, but there's many things we can do with collaboration and sharing information. I'm sorry. Yes,
Okay,
please.
thank you. Thank you.
So,
Mr. Harvey.
as far as reaching out to the children and their parents and families throughout your areas, what do you guys do to reach them, get the information to them?
Yeah, so you'll see us at parent nights and all the school outreach events. I've been trying to run some other survey presentations in the community. We use our events and our activities to try to expand out our reach. And frankly, I think we could be doing a better job of reaching every family in our community. We have an online presence, online ads and things like that. I am certainly more than happy to hear any suggestions you all might have to better reach our families around the valley, specifically here in Wasilla.
Do you plan on a social media presence in the future, or?
We do have a Facebook page. Again, that wasn't really my expertise coming in to this job. I'm kind of a program guy, so I've been learning. We do have info on a Facebook page. I think we could probably expand out some of the other channels and platforms there.
Yeah, because I was just curious because I just did a quick search and I wasn't able to find you on Facebook, so that kind of got me thinking.
Okay.
Because I know especially with the youth, Facebook is where a lot of them receive a vast amount of information and easy to reach them.
Yeah.
So.
And the most effective way for us to get young people in our programs is for a friend to tell them about it.
Yeah.
So we want to run awesome programs that gets kids talking to their friends and bringing them back, because that's who they're listening to.
It is, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, do you have any questions?
No, just one little comment. As far as Facebook goes, all of my grandkids in your target group who live in the valley, by the way.
We can't hear you.
For all of my, I have 8 grandkids that live in the valley. None of them really use Facebook. They use other social media like Snapchat and all kinds of, I think there's another one too. That's where I would think you ought to concentrate your social media on. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Sir, this is my card. It has my email on that. Anything you want on Mayor's Minute, make sure I get it by Thursday afternoon, and it'll go on the following Monday.
That's terrific.
And I'll be happy to put it on.
All right, that's awesome. I will definitely do that. If you need to turn me off, don't hesitate to do that.
But thank you for your presentation. It's been very helpful and informative.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, next is a report on the Planning Commission from Deputy Public Works Director Robert Walden. And he has the deer in the headlight. Look at me. I'll help you out. Okay. All right. A lot of you know up by Home Depot, there's stuff going on. And that is Steam Commons Avenue. We're getting a Sudsy Salmon Car Wash, Firehouse Subs, and Three Bears is doing a market with a 10-bay gas station there. And also on Sun Mountain Avenue, there's a 10,500 square foot building going up, and that's where Chapo's is going to be located. And you may have seen on Facebook a picture of the building and stuff. It's going to be great. They will have 350 seating, and they'll have room for outdoor dining that will accommodate a band or whatever they want to do there. So, we are moving right along. Wasilla is open for business. We're a great place to live, work, and play. All right. We don't have no public hearings scheduled this evening, so we'll move on to persons to be heard. Mr. Stearns, you're up.
Good evening. My name is Tom Stearns. I'm the Senior Ambassador for the Wasilla Area Seniors Incorporated. We still have board vacancies. If any of you would like to be a board member for WASI, we just call our number, 206-8800, and they will tell you how to get an application. The housing project, the Willow House, is going to be, the ribbon cutting will be the afternoon of 4 November 2021. And so it's, if you've been down the KGB and you look to your right, it's going up, and the exterior's all done, and they're pretty much complete with the inside too now. So it's moving right along. And there is still an opportunity if you want to get in there. Okay? It's very limited. There's not many slots left, but if you want in, apply, please. But the big news is what happened last weekend. Last weekend we had this, what we called a block party. The block party was supposed to be what we normally do for the Miles for Meals. We have a barbecue outside, and everything was supposed to be nice. It was supposed to be sunny and everything. It didn't turn out that way. It turned out it was raining, and but that played so well into what we wanted to accomplish. Because what we wanted to accomplish was to bring our community in and have them see what WASI is all about. Because most younger people really don't know what a senior center is all about or why we even exist. So what we did was when the people came in, we were going to take them on tours. Now, me being the tour guide, I thought I was going to walk them around the place and show them things. That's not what they did. On all our walls off to the left when you come in, there are portraits of different things about WASI, and they gave each person a little sheet of paper, kind of like a scavenger hunt, and you had to fill those out, and if you filled it out, you get a prize at the end. But people had the opportunity to go and do that. And so afterwards, I asked a lot of the people that did this did you learn anything about WASI? And they said yes. And that was the whole point of this. It wouldn't have happened if everybody was spread out outside. They wouldn't have, as many people wouldn't have come in to see what we have going. We have a CEO change. The interviews have been conducted. A selection may be made as early as this week. And I'm over. So, any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stearns. Tim? Did I say that? No. Okay, for the record, Councilman Burney exited the meeting at 6:09. Okay, next we have Preston, and I would butcher your name, so I'm going to let you say it. I'm sorry?
Rudder in a boat, row in a boat.
Rudder. Okay.
Mayor, council members, thanks for letting me speak tonight. My name is Preston Rudderow, along with my business partner back here. We own investments, and we have 3 retail buildings here in Wasilla. We own the Starbucks building, the Verizon, the Domino's building, and the Tesoro, which is now Speedway. So we have a cluster of retail buildings in there. We've owned those for quite some time, built 2 of them. Why I'm here tonight, and this has become a concern over the last couple of years, is we've had our tenants call us with growing concerns about the homeless issues that are in the town. I know you guys are well aware of it. I've talked to your office. They were nice enough to put me in contact with the police department, which we did. But it's an ongoing thing, and I've watched it for the years. Maybe the last 3 years it's gotten worse. I get constant calls now from tenants expressing concerns over their clientele, employees, and it's something I think that needs to be addressed. I won't get deep into the weeds as to all the things that happen, but obviously we got camps in and around the retail areas. We got panhandling, tenants, customers will come out and the people will come up and ask them for money, and it makes it an unpleasant situation. We get a lot of trash that we got to pick up from that. It's just an intimidating atmosphere for retail. And as you said, we've got a lot of booming retail. It's happening up on the hill. We've got things growing. We've got tenants expanding. Verizon's expanding. So it's good. It's a great atmosphere. But I'm getting a little concerned that we're going to have some run-ins, and it's not something that's going to be good for any of us. We had a couple of tenants that were going to be here tonight that couldn't make it, building owners, Carl's Jr. and Smash Burger. They sent me some letters if you would like to see those. We as individuals own our company. We pay a fair share of taxes to the city of Wasilla. We pay a sales tax. And I just guess I'd like to know what the city is thinking and how they might be handling this issue that seems to be growing. I did have a very positive meeting with Lieutenant Ruth Jostin and some of our tenants and other business owners, and she was very gracious. She came out, she talked with us, and she's had patrols stepped up. She personally has gone out and done that, so I want to thank both your office for recommending her and for the police department doing stuff. And that seems to have helped a little bit, but I think it's not a policing issue. I think it's a city management issue going forward, and I think we need to figure out how to maybe fix that. That's all I got, so thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Next, I have May Pauling.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
All right, well, I'm with Preston.
State your name, please.
I'm sorry, I'm supposed to do that. I'm not very good. I'm a public person, but not really good at public speaking. My name is Maylin Pauling. Am I supposed to say anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I do know some of you here, I think that those of you who know me know that building my company, which is Hello Darlin', which I do rent from Preston and his partner, Bill Kramer. that it has been hard and financially complicated. I do have right now 16 girls inside of there. There have been moments where people will hit their head on the concrete until they're bleeding. We had somebody actually die in front of Zushi last year, and they brought him back to life. The panhandling is pretty serious. I certainly don't want to blindside anyone, because I know that you guys are doing your job, and the police department was great. They're like, call 911 as much as you can, as much as you need to. Problem with that is I think some of the COVID rules are is that you can't arrest them, you can't put them in jail, they kind of just get a ticket. I don't know what the answers are. I'm not going to pretend to know what the answers are. I have no idea. We just want to bring it to your attention that it's getting kind of more and more intense as of late. I think that's all I got.
Okay.
Unless you have questions for me, ma'am.
Anybody have questions in the council? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next up is Bill Kramer.
My name is Bill Kramer. As Preston pointed out, my business partner and May is a tenant of ours. We own some commercial properties, what I call in the corner of Main and Main of Wasilla. It has, I'm going to put a little different spin on it. It's called a homeless issue. I don't necessarily see it that way. I see that there's other things. Tyler had spoke about it briefly about drug and alcohol addiction. And that's what, there was a very telling documentary done in Seattle. Seattle has a huge homeless problem. And Como News Agency down there did something called Seattle Dying. I think it had a question mark on it. And it talked, and they spent years looking into what was causing the homeless issue in their community. And I'm not saying that we're running parallel with Seattle, but there's some things I think that can be learned from that documentary that we would all be wise to take a look at. Something else that is happening in your community is I own 135 acres of property in the core of Wasilla, and I'm developing it right now. And the first phase is getting to record, and so we put in about a month ago, we started putting in roads. And it's right across, it's down in Dever, nice part of town. Dever Point, you got your city park sitting kitty corner from me, and I'm off to the left, and it goes back over towards the complex over there. So it's going to be a series of phases, but the first 1,000 feet of road went in. Well, my last 2 days, well, actually Thursday and Friday. Thursday I went and inspected the road, and I stepped on a needle that was laying there. Went up the road to the cul-de-sac, the next road that we put in, and the surveyor who was surveying for the MEA utilities to go in, I saw him kick something in the dirt. So I walked over and I looked at it, another needle on the ground. So I had some time to spare. I went to the park, and I went down. I'd never been down to the boardwalk, never been down to the lake, and there was a car sitting down there, door half open, person with their head tipped back, needle on the ground. This was actually over 2 days, period, in that area. The problem is drugs, which is causing homelessness. And I think that unless and I don't have an answer either, like May said, it's a very complicated issue about how, but Tyler's idea of getting people before they actually need treatment is awesome. I support that. I'm going to talk to him about that, about supporting that issue. So we would appreciate whatever you can do, but it's not okay for our tenants to call us and say, I've got somebody sleeping in my parking stall. When they ask them to move on, they apologize. They get up, they go lean 15 feet away, crack a beer, drink it, it's 8 in the morning, drink it, fall back asleep on the side of our sidewalk. These are nice buildings. So it's getting frustrating. From our point, we have a substantial investment in Wasilla, and we choose to make additional investments in here, myself and our investment partners. So that's what I have to say. So I'd appreciate anything you can do.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. Madam Clerk, please read. Oh, is there anyone else who would like to address the council at this time? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please read the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Items for approval under our consent agenda this evening are the special meeting minutes of July 29th, 2021, and the regular meeting minutes of August 9th, 2021. We have no introductions or public hearings for approval. We do have 3 action memorandums for approval. The first is AM number 2137. That's a contract award to NC Machinery in the amount of $272,450 for a 2021 Cat 40 motor grader. Contract amendment to North Star Excavation and Asphalt in the amount of $98,560 for the Wasilla Municipal Airport Pavement Maintenance Project. And lastly, AM number 2139, contract amendment to Muni Revs in the amount of $42,075 for sales tax software change orders.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
So moved by Councilman Johnson.
Is there a second?
Second, Councilman Harvey.
It's been moved by Councilmember Johnson and seconded by Councilmember Harvey to approve the consent agenda as read. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. There is no unfinished business this evening. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the next item of business.
Thank you. That's an update from administration on emergency response efforts related to COVID-19.
And there has been no new action taken by my administration on the city's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Next on the agenda is communications. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the item under communications.
Thank you. We have 2. First is Informational Memorandum 2109. That's monthly financial reports for the period ending June 30th, 2021, to include the month-to-date expenditure report and disbursements greater than $10,000, the investment report, quarterly report of businesses receiving a penalty waiver for sales tax, and the auditor's report. 1 set of commission meeting minutes. That's from the Planning Commission meeting of August 10th, 2021.
Okay. Are there questions from the council? Next on the agenda is audience comments. Is there anyone present who would like to address the City Council at this time? If so, please come forward and begin by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Hearing none, next on the agenda is the mayor, clerk, attorney, and council comments. Unless objection is raised, please keep remarks limited to 3 minutes. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As noted in the clerk's report, save the date, November 15th through 19th will be the AML Local Government Conference in Anchorage at the Hotel Captain Cook. NEO this year will be virtual, but the actual annual conference will be in person, or at least as of now. So you should have received a link through your city email to the Know Before training, and that's just to help council members make them familiar with any anti-phishing is the purpose of the training, anti-phishing. So if you get an email, you don't know who it's from, you're not sure of the attachment, don't open it. Since you're on the city's network, it's important that we're all trained and we help prevent that. So, and then next regular upcoming meeting, we'll see you here on September 13th.
Madam Attorney.
Madam Mayor, so we had set some time aside for 5-minute training, your sort of quarterly spot training, we'll call it, and I'm hoping that you're all ready for that. I'm going to be very quick. All right, ready? Here we go. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about public records today, and you have an incredibly sophisticated, capable clerk and clerk's office, which means you have a very uniform application of what we do when we get a request for public records. And so I'm not going to cover that, but you can contact the city clerk's office if you have questions about what exemptions are there, what gets produced. What I want to talk to you about is the creation of a public record, because I find often elected officials don't fully understand what kind of exposure their personal devices and their communications have. And I think it's important to just know. And so I'll start with, just because you you text something, for example, on your phone. Maybe you text to another council member. Maybe you're texting with administration. All of the rules that would apply, say, to an email or to any other communication that's about city business on which you are authorized to act will apply to that text message. The other thing to keep in mind, and really you're very lucky because the mayor has you put your devices aside when you're having a meeting. That's a very important piece because when you text during a meeting, even if it's on a personal issue, there becomes a question of whether or not by doing that in that span of time, you have exposed your personal communications to disclosure. And I understand that you have a very transparent group of council members. I'm not, but I think it's important to know it because when we know that, we also realize that if we get a request for, say, there is a request for all council member communications on city business from this state to this state, if you didn't know that and create that separation with your actual devices, you might be in a situation where city clerk is asking you to hand over your personal cell phone or your personal iPad and something that really hinders your ability to do your day job and to communicate with your family and just creates a problem. And if you don't know that that's sitting there, that's a potential consequence, it can be pretty overwhelming when you have to address that. So one of the things I always try to make sure councils understand is that as an elected official, when you talk about city business, you then have your representative of the people hat on, and really they have access to everything unless there's a reason that we withhold disclosure, and we're always going to err on the side of disclosure, but of course we protect privacy, constitutional rights to privacy. We protect enforcement actions from being disclosed at a time that could hurt an individual or their rights or the department. So there are exemptions, but this is am I in 5 minutes?
You're fine. Continue on, Holly.
So this is just sort of that red flag, just to make sure you're aware of it and that you keep it in mind. The other thing I often tell my councils is everything that you put in writing, whether it's on a Facebook comment, which is important, right? If it's on an iMessage page in your Facebook page, your personal page, you need to remember when you are in an elected official position that may be blown up and highlighted in yellow in front of a courtroom someday or in front of the public someday. And while that doesn't always happen, I have seen it happen. So I think it's just a good rule of thumb to, as you communicate in writing, to think, is this something that I am okay with being broadcast across the state of Alaska and in other forums? Because we have so many forums we're trying to navigate and so many hats we all wear, especially elected officials that you wear in the community. That's your public records training. 5 minutes and done.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody have questions? You never see me with my cell phone here. Never. Councilmember Johnson.
No comment, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Velock.
No comments.
Councilmember Harvey.
No comments.
Councilmember Brown.
No comment.
I'm shocked nobody has anything to say tonight. So, thank you for your time. I appreciate all of that. Remember, we have a booth at the fair, and we're on the red trail, Wasilla Red. Always remember that. So, each department is there on different days and whatever, and we're getting a little face out there that the public has not seen before. So we're very glad of that. And as I always say, we are open for business. I do understand what you guys are talking about, as far as what we can do, and the chief can probably explain this better than I can, but our hands is tied when it comes to, you can pick them up and take them to Palmer, to jail, and they'll beat the officer back and before he's got his paperwork done. So here you go. They let them out on their own reconnaissances. And as far as the drugs and stuff, yes, we definitely have a problem, but so does the whole state, so does the lower 48. And all we can do is our law enforcement, in my opinion, is doing the best job that they can. And if you see something, say something. You know, that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to speak up. Or if you hear, you know, my kids are all old, but when you've got younger kids, they'll tell you stuff. And when they do, don't be afraid to call 911 and say, I just heard. It may be true, it may not. But if it's true and they stop one shipment of drugs coming through, what have you done? So it's going to take all of us. All of the nonprofits out here, they all have plenty of money and whatever, and you know, let's get on board and see what we can do. It's going to take all of us working together. So we'll do what we can. That's all I can promise you. But we are well aware of the situation. You know, there's a guy standing down by H&R Block's building holding a sign, homeless, anything will help. He watches his kid ride his bicycle up to Sonic to work and makes fun of him because the kids are working and the parents are standing there panhandling. We make more money than you do at panhandling. The people over in front of the museum that hugs that signpost, what are you going to do with them? We can't do anything to them. So, in a lot of ways, our hands is as tight as yours is. So society itself has a problem. It's just not my problem or your problem or the city's or whatever. We all have a problem, and we are all going to have to be in this together. So, anyway, anything else to come before this council tonight? Absolutely.
I did have a comment. Correct me if I'm wrong, the city does have an ordinance that does cover panhandling, but only if they're approaching people in parking lots, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We do. And you pick them up, you take them to Palmer, and they'll beat the officer back. So what have you gained? Not much. So, anyway, the meeting is adjourned. Mr. Johnson.
I'm sorry, this is Councilman Johnson. Does the ordinance actually have any kind of a fine or penalty that would go with it? You know, so that you could sort of write them a ticket and, you know, it costs them like $300, and if they're panhandling, they obviously, well, won't be able to pay all of it, but you could sort of build up a fine for this. I don't know. It's just my idea.
Do you think, yeah, we can write them a ticket, but now do you think that's going to do any good? It's a waste of paper. You can fine them whatever.
No, but if it costs them actual real money, you know, that's the only way that I think you're going to stop. Well, maybe it's an idea. I didn't say it the only way, but it's just an idea anyway.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. The meeting is adjourned at 6:58.
Thank you.